Guys, thank you for watching the show. As always, please, if you can, go into the description. There is a Patreon, there is a Locals, there is a Cash App, a PayPal, and a Buy Me a Coffee, Kofi, Kofi. Those are all ways that you guys can independently fund this show so that I am not beholden to YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, etc. The vast majority of you guys do anywhere from $1 to $3 a month. It makes a world of a difference. There's 12,000 of you guys on YouTube. The show runs on 5 grand a month. My goal is to get away from Rumble, Spotify, YouTube in terms of being beholden to them so that the show is kind of invincible and can just keep going. So a lot of you guys have joined. Right now the show is making like $1,000 a month just from all the little donations. My goal for the end of the year is to get it up to five because that's how much it costs to run. So thank you. And if you want something in return, you guys can go to the description. Sport Drink sponsors me now. Promo code Tommy's Podcast, and there's the link in the description. Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food. They've been sponsoring me for a couple years, and now Volt Athletics. My buddy JD Sterker. If you join the Patreon, you can get a free consultation on getting a workout plan tailored to you. So, yeah, thank you so much, guys. Wednesday, February 18th, 2026 at 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time. Uh, Guest rescheduled. I don't which is great because I actually don't want to do a show. Just feeling flat and tired. But I got 8 hours of sleep. I went to the gym. I showered, put on clean clothes, and meditated. All things that require effort and that also result in, I call it like prime time mental acuity, where I've got like a window of I'm on. I already did all of it, so I might as well finish the drill and do a show. So this is a solar rant, which is what started in 2020 when a guest wouldn't show up, which was all the time. And yeah, if you've never heard them before, don't get your hopes up. Sometimes they're cool, sometimes they're not. Sometimes I have a topic, sometimes I don't. A lot of times I'm just kind of start talking and see where it goes. Um, so I talked to Colonel Towners yesterday, obviously on the podcast, not privately, kind of about the big picture. What is the big picture? And how you're never going to find it in a textbook. It makes me think of when I was starting to realize I maybe didn't want to be a doctor, like my junior, senior year of college. And every once in a while, I'd, hit a gravity bong or something after the bar, and I'd have that moment of like contemplate, where you can't ignore the things that are in your mind that you've maybe been pushing down. And like, do I really want to do this? And, I'd ask other pre-med students, I'd ask doctors, I'd ask professors, but those were all the wrong people to ask because they all wanted to be or were doctors. Um, and more important, and then you could ask, okay, then the flip side is you could ask people who weren't. You could ask people who, they're in law school or they're a freshman, whatever, engineer. It's not really worthwhile asking them because none of them ever wanted to be doctors. So if you go to the first group, they're all going to tell you what what you originally wanted, and the other group is all going to tell you what kind of you want to hear, but neither of them are honest inquiries. And I remember seeing a quote that was something along the lines of, "No professor is ever going to schedule your summer off. No, there's no there's no class advisor that's ever going to tell you you need to go take a leap year and do some mushrooms and see what God's telling you. No one does that, and they can't because if they were, that wouldn't be the thing." Um, and in that same way, I don't think we're never gonna find the document that's like, oh well, here's the structure of the Illuminati, which we also have to be intellectually honest about. That's a very that's a very quick way to not be self-critical. If you just say, well, we'll never know, that also means it's impossible for you to be wrong. So you have to be careful about that, you know? we can't know for sure what is in the exact center of the molten core of Earth. I think there's a dinosaur. We're never gonna we're never gonna see. And so that's kind of you have to be careful about using that as a blank check as like, well, because we can't know, therefore everything I say can't technically be wrong. So you have to be kind of careful about that. You get a blanket. Blanket boy. Um, so just all those kind of prefaces that, you know, this can't really be proven, and that also is aiding me in just this whole whatever I'm about to go on about. I also have to be very clear about my own biases in that I love just what is it, Matryoshka dolls, the Russian dolls. I love infinite dolls of like classification. I love infinite fallback plans and contingencies and top secret. And this is the real top secret. And then this is, I love all that shit. I hate when a video game ends. I'm like, just make it keep going. Even if it, like Ace Combat, I just remember thinking like, like the highest plane cost like 2 million points and it took like a week to grind to get. It's like, dude, just make things that are further, make one that costs 10 million, make one that costs 100 billion, even if it takes you another year to get the next plane, just for the sake of it. Um, so I have to be very clear about that. I want this to be true. I want this to be real. Um, so all that being said, those prefaces that I can't be disproven what I'm going to say, so what I say almost doesn't matter. And even though I've just admitted what my bias is, it's still going to come out projected onto it. Or the opposite. I'm going to go out of my way to make it not the thing I'm biased towards, which is also intellectually dishonest. Um, yeah, okay. So that being said, I don't think it has been one continuous power core for all of human history. I don't think that. To me, that just seems unlikely. Um, I mean, I guess in the last couple of weeks, with proof that they're, satanic pedophile cannibals, that, maybe it has been the core. Um, I think it ebbs and flows. I don't think it's really ever been one country. I think there's always a kind of group in the country or behind the country that we don't know about. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, the Illuminati, but I would imagine there is something. Eisenhower's military industrial complex speech, and that was January 17th, 1961. And then 28 years prior, Smedley Butler gave the war's a racket speech. Then I always need to pull this one up, the Woodrow Wilson quote. Um, and I'm very foggy right now. Uh, above a whisper. Yeah. So we got Eisenhower, 1961, military industrial complex. Smedley Butler, 28 years prior, war is a racket. And then 14 years before that, Woodrow Wilson. Since I entered politics, I have chiefly had men's views confided to me privately. Some of the biggest men in the United States in the field of commerce and manufacture are afraid of something. They know that there is a power somewhere so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive, that they better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. Now, there's always going to be, I'm sure you can find quotes that the fuck is on my face. Oh, it's fuzz. You're always going to find quotes throughout human history about like power behind the power. Okay. But I don't think that necessarily is referring to the same. They're all, I guess they are all referring to a power behind the scenes. I don't think that that is a continuous thread from like the Fertile Crescent to present day. I think that that structure is probably a recurring emergent phenomena that thing does happen behind the scenes. I don't think it's been one continuous thing. I think you could wipe Earth of humans right now. Not no, because we would need it to reboot, but just let's just imagine whatever goes down to a million, whatever you need for genetic diversity. Let's go down to a million, wipe all human history, just if you can as a video game, whatever, just press the button. Um, I think eventually, as nation states would arise, and I think that would happen inevitably, there would also be this thing behind it. So I think that is true. Um, that being said, I think those structures, those power cores, those Illuminatis, those deep states, think they have lifetimes. And I don't think it's necessarily unique to one country. So I think it's possible that they rise and fall within the lifetime of a single empire. I think it's also possible that they rise and fall in between a couple empires. Maybe they, right now, maybe the one that is running America was also running Great Britain from like, I don't know, like the 1500s. And we see it as like, oh, Great Britain, and then they lost the colonists, and then the rise of the superpower, Eagle, Hulk Hogan, nuclear weapon, moon. That could still be the same group, and they just pivoted over here. I mean, we know that a lot of the high command of Nazi Germany, as well as Japan, came over here, primarily scientists, rockets, medical, Unit 731, Shiro Ishii, all that shit. I think it's probably also true that those kind of power cores are also able to shift. Um, I think the one right now, I think it probably arose within America around the turn of the century, around 1900. I think that's probably when. I don't know which one was before it. I don't know if that was one that came over from Great Britain. And then there's also the possibility that it's not only is it not a continuous single group, it's also possible that there are chaotic times where there is no single one. But because I believe it is an emergent phenomena, it then arises again. So I think the current one, yeah, rose in America around 1900. I don't know why, that's just my gut. And I think it slowly built. Was World War One intentional? It does seem kind of like a consolidation of power. I also don't, I'm not nearly as well versed on World War One as I should be, and I don't want to really speak on that and make insane claims. I mean, I guess the history of this podcast is me making insane claims about things I'm not well versed on, but whatever. I mean, Walter Bosley, right? His whole thing about NIMZA, NYMZA, talking about kind of advance for the day airships in the 1890s as well as the 1860s. The airship scare, I think, off in 1890 off the coast of California. And it sounds funny now, like airships, there's like Jules Verne contraptions. But that was some like black ops shit in 1860. Now I know I think the Union Army had one or two that they used to spy on, not really spy, just look at because you're right there. Um, but again, I don't know enough. I think post World War One, that whole mechanized fighting that had never existed before, the ability to just or disability, whatever you want to call it. I mean, tanks, planes, really, I mean, the cavalry charge was not a thing anymore. There's no, on guard, and when you go over, it's just max machine guns and artillery. I think that probably changed a lot of the calculus. And I think very pragmatically, I mean, I love America, so obviously, even I'm like a cuck for the deep state. I'm like, deep state could only rise in America because we're the fucking best. But I think pragmatically, it's also Fortress America. I mean, it's just, it's a good fallback point. It's a great fallback point. There's none better. Going into World War II, you could say that that was a way for the power group here to destroy the remnants of power groups that didn't die in World War One, but then also end Europe because you're still bringing them down, even though we won. It's they were still fucked beyond belief by bombing campaigns. America kind of came out on top of that. I don't know for sure if the Cold War really was two opposing forces that we think of. I'm a little unsure on that. United States versus the Soviet Union. I don't think it's entirely unlikely that the power core might have orchestrated that because that's how you dump insane amounts of money and resources into things in plain sight without people opposing it or getting skeptical. Now, much like COVID, where people are like, "Oh, you think every nurse was in on it?" No, you fucking retard. You don't need everyone to be in on it. I don't doubt that the Soviet Union really was a Soviet republic. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that, Dulles and Eisenhower and, Hoover and I don't doubt that they actually thought they were fighting the Soviets. Well, and not that they thought they were. A Cold War is a if you are in charge of the world, there's a siren going by. I don't know if you guys can hear that. God bless. Um, if you're in charge, so we even in like World War II, we did it with labs, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Lawrence Livermore, Sandia. We made separate labs to promote competition, and but there was no facade of we're enemies. Everyone at the labs knew that they were all in the United States working together. It wasn't we were blood enemies. Then we found out we were on the same team. No, like they knew each other. The fucking went to college together. And they did that simply to expedite the development of the atomic bomb and then the hydrogen bomb. And then the ability once you could make them, the proof of concept, then the ability to make them, how much smaller could you make them, how much quicker, stable, blah blah blah. The always never theorem. And that was with people who knew they were on the same side, and the competition was kind of a facade. Like there's competition between whatever Navy and Army and all that shit, and they know they're on the same side. But it still exists. There is still the whole like fuck it, we're gonna battle. why wouldn't you be able to extrapolate that to a higher level then? The United States versus Soviet Union, if there was a group behind it, and what would be the purpose of it? Well, if you control the world, and in general, it seems like the marching direction of human civilization, and like a stock chart, I mean, it goes up and down, but it seems like the general direction is technological progress. That seems what it is, right? And I guess the ease of the burden of living. We need food, water, shelter. We like sex and entertainment and sleep and comfort and blah, blah, blah. That kind of seems to be the general thread of like ancient Sumeria to now. You can fill it all in with all the other shit that we know of, but that seems to be the general thread, in my opinion. So I don't think it is an insane idea to say that this power core pitted the US and the Soviet Union against one another as a way to they just kind of like a 40-year pedal to the metal technological progression, trillions and trillions of dollars, and no one batted an eye. It wasn't something where you're like, where'd that $1 trillion from the Pentagon go? This is open and in your face. Yeah, we need $1 trillion to do this. And everyone's like, yeah, well, we got to fight the Ruskies, like, and the capitalist West. It's a pretty good, it's a pretty good way to get more bang for your buck. What was the fall of the Soviet Union? Maybe they reached some thing that they wanted. I don't know what that would be. Did they get the main thing they wanted? I mean, maybe it was nuclear fusion. Maybe there was a fusion reactor that was capable. I don't know. They got the primary thing they wanted, and they're pragmatic. So if the Cold War was no longer serving the purpose, they would end it. It could have been that maybe the Soviet Union started to get away from them, get out from under them, and they realized that they weren't controlling it anymore, so they flattened it. I don't know. Maybe part of the power core that was running the Soviet Union side, maybe they started to get a little uppity and think that we'll run this shit. I don't know. I've got a splitting headache today. Should we get some more ice? I'll be right back. How do I mute myself? Who knows? So that maybe they reached the thing they wanted, nuclear fusion. Maybe it was they just no longer saw it as the most beneficial or efficient or profitable path. So they either hit some goal that they wanted, they no longer saw it as efficient. They were like, this is kind of getting close to nuclear war, even though we know it's horse shit. The guys that are doing all this stuff might actually pull the trigger. Okay. So we need to end it. This is no longer the good move to do. Could be that the thing started to get away from them. The, the Frankenstein. Like, oh fuck. Could be that part of your group had defected. It also could be that they're not omnipotent and they wanted it to keep going and it didn't. Now again, back to the kind of opening premise. This is all an intellectually horseshit podcast I'm doing right now because none of this can be proven or disproven. So it's okay. The prosperity of the 90s didn't really seem like that was moving as fast as they wanted. Global war on terror. Um, I mean, I'm not naive. Obviously, war is how you make money. And I'm not naive. Like, no part of me is like surprised that there are people who are psychopaths who would happily throw 10,000 US soldiers and 5 million civilians to their death for money. No part of me is surprised by that. But you would think that if they were gonna do it, they would get something out of it. Like they're already evil fucks who just want, the taxpayer to pay for MRAPs and tanks and stuff. But you should get something out of it. If we're already building the war, let's get something out of it. We're not going to go carpet bomb, you know, the ocean. Like, let's go somewhere and fucking take all this shit. So I don't know what that was. EM's theory, and I don't think it's wrong, is that that's how we went over there and took over all the terrorist groups, not to defeat them, but to use them. I think it's pretty cogent. I'm also not convinced that we didn't steal the oil. I mean, on face value, we didn't. But the entire, again, we're back to the intellectually honest premise of this is all horseshit. But who's to say we didn't through a very complex multi-tiered layer of shells? I think we probably did. I really do. I don't think it was just for opium either. I think we probably did that. But it was probably taken over terror cells, and I think we absolutely did take the oil. And you could say, well, take from who if one group's running the world? One group's running the world in that they control the majority of the military might, but they don't have 1,000% control. Because otherwise, if they did, then they would just come out and it would just be a totalitarian technocratic dictatorship and no one would, it would be a global North Korea. They're not able to do that. They've been trying to do it, I think, for 10,000 years, but they're not able to do it. So it is very real that there are places that aren't directly under your control. And they rise up in nation states, extractive institutions. They probably start developing their own mini deep states, blah, blah, blah. So using that to say, at the very least, forget the war, forget 9/11, forget blah, 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 blah. What was physically happening in three-dimensional space? Fuck everything else. What was physically happening? The United States put a bunch of dudes with a bunch of guns and a bunch of planes physically on top of the oil. Forget everything else, forget borders, languages, US dollars. What was the most raw thing? We had a bunch of fucking tanks and dudes with guns standing on the patch of ground that was above the oil, which means no one else is getting it. Okay. So that's denying it from other, perhaps miniature deep states rising. Why did it end after 20 years? Back to, well, Soviet Union. It was no longer the best move. It started to get away from them. They didn't want it to end. They got the thing that they wanted. A tiny little deep state was rising there and they wanted to smash it. Again, see opening premise. This is all horseshit. I can't prove or disprove any of it. Fast forward, what has been going on? I don't know, loosely from 2020. See opening premise, horseshit, blah, blah, blah. It used to be my leading theory was that they were rebooting a Cold War, Cold War II, US, China, US, China, Russia, whatever. And I mean, the Cold War went from what, 1945 to 91. So it took a couple years. So once you realize it's like, well, that's a 5 decade thing, then yeah, the preamble is like 5 or 6 years. When you're in 5 or 6 years, it feels forever. But when you're looking back at it, they're just little blips. So although it feels like a lifetime from like Trump first term till now, it's 10 years. There's 20 years before between the world wars. Like you gotta, even though it feels like eternity in history books, those are just little, just chapter end, next chapter. And I'm not even talking about 10 years, I'm talking about 5 years. COVID, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Gaza, Taiwan. Sounds like Thailand, but like Down syndrome. Taiwan, China, U.S. Monroe Doctrine. To me, and the Ukraine, Russia is causing Europe to reindustrialize or remilitarize. The fuck was that? It just scared the shit out of me. It always does this in the winter. I forget. Yeah, just like huge chunks of ice and snow fall off the roof and stuff. Just made me jump out of my skin. Um, so this could be like a 5 year preamble, or we could be halfway through it. There's going to be another 5 years where it feels like forever right now, but in the future, we'll look back and go, that was the 10 years that led to Cold War II. Why Cold War II? A faster way to increase technological progress. It's a way to increase technological process progress in a manner that even normal Pentagon funding can't do because there's still some sort of oversight. When you need to just be the B-2 bomber costs 2 billion. No, I'm talking like 20 trillion. It has to be, it's so big that it has to be hidden in plain sight. Cold War. I think that's a very real possibility of what's going on right now. And again, what is the purpose? So, progress to what end? Again, kind of the easing of the burden of life. I mean, you're right, you have to we are these creatures. We have to, toil. Moving away from that. I think throughout all of human history, it's been that they want the nicer thing, the nicer planes, or the nicer carriages, or the nicer, covered wagons, or the nicer velvet gown that the king wears, or all that stuff, food, pussy, power, entertainment from like court jesters till now. Um, I think for the first time, they're actually they feel like I don't know if it's possible, but I believe that they think it is possible. Immortality, merging with machine, if not merging with machine, just perpetual biological upkeep, printing new kidneys every year, gene therapy. So that's to the progress end. Further consolidate your power through robotics and AI, powered by nuclear fusion or mobile fusion. Okay. So that would be my premise for the Cold War II being orchestrated. For the last 5 years, I've thought it was that, the Cold War II being orchestrated. Now, I'm actually starting to believe that we're seeing something that is probably relatively rare, and that is the challenging of the current power core by an up and coming power core. And that's not how they always switch. I think sometimes they probably rise and collapse and then arise naturally again. Maybe they merge, maybe they split, and maybe one just, rises up and tries to usurp the throne. I actually think we're seeing an attempt at usurpation. Is that a word? Usurpation. I think we are seeing that. Now, in terms of admitting biases and stuff, I want this to be true. I want there to be good guys. I mean, I was going down, Pizzagate threads in 2016 and 2017 on Reddit on the Donald. That's the great Tim Dillon says. I mock QAnon. He's like, no part of me doesn't want it to be real. Why wouldn't I want there to be a group of good people who are fighting alleged satanic pedophile cannibals? Like, I do want that to be true. Do I think it's true? I don't know. More and more, it actually, and I can't pinpoint it. I can't give you receipts. I can't. I actually kind of think that's what's happening right now. Is we're seeing the usurping of one power core by an up and coming power core. That's just kind of what it seems like. Now, and this is what I was saying yesterday. Cynically, it could be that the up and coming one is wrapping themselves in the white hat image of we're going to fight the satanic pedophile cannibals, and we're going to, end the petrodollar and, you know, provide free power and clean energy and then they're going to use that to get in control and then they're going to become evil. Maybe, but it's also possible that like there are good guys. It's not impossible. It's historically it seems more improbable, but it has happened. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. Even just recently, in the last week or so, right? All the news of like mobile nuclear reactors. I feel like that's probably been not possible, but actually used for like 50 years. That seems to be a rolling out of something that you would imagine would be like the white hats taking control, clean energy. It could also be that this itself is all orchestrated, in that it's one half of the power core ratting out the other half, going, look at these satanic pedophiles, even though they are too. And it's to kill them and consolidate your power and then stop the people rising up. Maybe. But I feel like if it was truly just the evil guys still in charge, we'd already be in a ground war with Iran. Now let's knock on wood because I hope that doesn't happen this week. I don't think we'd see like mobile nuclear reactors. I don't think there'd be ICE deportations. I don't think there'd be blowing up boats of fentanyl. I think if the bad guys were truly omnipotent, we'd be overly committed and extended to US troops in Ukraine, Taiwan, Israel, Iran, all that, Venezuela. We wouldn't see, though flawed and limited, we wouldn't see free speech on Twitter. We wouldn't see the Epstein files. Yeah, I think that we're seeing something that probably doesn't happen a whole lot of times throughout human history is the usurping of one power core by another. And maybe never that it's a good one. So I don't know. That's kind of my theory on this. Not really based in a whole lot. Also a bit under the weather right now. I'm not feeling too hot. But that's kind of what I think. It's also what I want to be true, but it is kind of what I think. If that's the case, man, then this is like the most exciting time to ever be alive. So we'll wrap it up though. I really don't feel too good. So thank you for watching, everybody. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Three quick organizations that I try to help through the podcast. I don't take any money from, and I wouldn't if they offered. First and foremost is ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. That's led by Basil Baz. It's been around since 1993. They physically liberate sex trafficked children. They get about 10 to 12 kids a year. I've got a fundraiser thrown for them before. You can go to the link in the description. You can donate, I think, as little as $1. It's tax deductible. They are truly doing the Lord's work. This isn't an awareness campaign. This isn't wristbands. They physically go in, kick down doors, and liberate children who are raped daily. They're doing the Lord's work. If you can go help them, you can go give $1. You can also take their training programs and do your best to help spot human trafficking in the world around you. It really is, if there's anything that this podcast accomplishes on this earth, I think it should be to help them. The second group is Invest, like a vest, a bulletproof vest, led by Mike Letts. 25% of police precincts in the United States cannot afford to give their, and this is true, cannot afford to give their officers cars, weapons, nor vests. They cannot do that. And you can donate as little as $1. They have donated over, I believe, 70,000 bulletproof vests in 30 years. Actually, Invest and ARC were both founded in 1983. Fun fact. And Invest is also doing something that is dovetailing actually with ARC. I put them in touch, BAR, Broken Arrow Ranch, which is to make sure that the kids who are rescued don't fall right back into the traffic system. So ARC, you can go in there and you can help them, and Invest, you can also go in there and help them. And lastly is the Church of the Barbarian Spirit. That's my buddy Clay Martin, Special Forces. It is a group to where Special Forces veterans are helping other Special Forces veterans in unconventional ways, be it fasting, be it psychedelics, be it just face-to-face talking, to reduce suicide rates. And as you guys know, suicide is very near and dear to me. So those are three groups that I really think are actively trying to make the world a better place instead of just talking about it. If you guys could just go check them out, go share their links, go do whatever you can. If you can donate, go donate. If not, that's cool too. But, long after I'm dead, long after you guys are gone, I want the lasting impact of this podcast to be something that's genuinely helped the world. So if you guys can go check those out, that would be insanely appreciated. Thank you so much.